What's up guys, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. Now, I get a lot of questions from people asking me to show my collection, to kind of show everything that I have in one video. And unfortunately, that's just never possible for me to do with how many different things I have and all of the things I have being in different locations as well and things like that. It makes it very difficult to put it all in one place. And then even if I were able to do that, I have so much different stuff at this point that it would still take far too long to even show it in one video. So instead of that, I decided to kind of start a little series on the channel, just going through some of the things that I enjoy the most in my collection. We're going to start with this binder right here, which is full of Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon first edition non-holos. So the binder is, well, before this there's actually some Metal Raiders, like a full non-holo set of that. But from this point onwards, it is 3 complete sets of the non-holos from Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon, all near mint first edition. And I've organized it with the rares first, then the short prints, and then just the regular commons after that. And normally I don't use ring binders for my collection, just for the record, because obviously, as I'm sure most of you know, it's pretty easy to damage the cards if the pages come up over the front of the binder when it's in storage or something like that. So it's much safer to use the modern style 20 page, 360 pocket binders. But I do find these really nostalgic because these are what I used as a kid when I was collecting, or as a teenager, that kind of thing. I'm sure a lot of other collectors relate to that as well, because this was pretty much the standard back then. You didn't really get those fancy binders with their actual pages already built into the binder. So yeah, anyway, when I started out collecting 2016, 2017, I used to look for things which were affordable to me because I didn't have a lot of capital, and buying high-end cards, graded cards, sealed product, that was all out of my range at the time. It just wasn't something that was realistic for me to aim at. And when I looked at the prices of various different stuff, really the number one thing that stood out to me back then as being way too cheap was Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon first edition non-holos, exactly what you see here. So the packs of Legend of Blue Eyes back then were already about $40 to $50, and the boxes were already like well over $1,000. But you could buy a lot of the commons and short prints, and even most of the rares for well under $1 back then. A lot of these I would buy from TCG Player, Troll and Toad, places like that. And they would only cost 20-30 cents each. Literally that cheap, so you could get 3 of one rare for $1 and that kind of thing. And the prices to me didn't make any sense back then. I really felt like they were undervalued. And even looking beyond the financial aspect of whether I was going to make a big return on them by buying them and then waiting a while before I sold them, I really just liked the cards. I found them very nostalgic, and so I just figured it was the kind of investment where I couldn't lose, because either I would make money on it, or I would still just have some cards that I really enjoyed and paid next to nothing for. So yeah, with that said, let's kind of get right into the binder. You can see there's 3 sets of each card for the most part. I did actually collect a few more of other cards, and I have other non-holos which are not shown in this binder, but this was kind of a big goal of mine to make this playset binder, and that's why it's organized like this. Now the values of these cards nowadays are they've developed a lot more from when I bought them, so it's not just that they're more expensive now, which obviously they are, but also individual cards have much more of a kind of profile in terms of the pricing and the difficulty of the grade and all that kind of stuff, which is just natural as the hobby develops over the years. So these are, just for the record, a mixture of wavy and glossy non-holos. It's not really something that people care about with non-holos as much as they do with holos. It's kind of just for like crazy collectors who care about cardstock and that kind of stuff, that would actually bother telling the difference. But for those who are not aware, let me just make sure of this. Yeah, so the Fusionist on the left here is a wavy print holo, or a wavy print common, or rare rather. And it's pretty hard to tell from the front, to be honest. They both have pretty similar surfaces, but if you flip them over to the back and kind of put them in the light, I'm not sure how well you can see it with the lighting I've got this time, but the wavy version has a kind of deep pitting on the back of the card. That's just the way the cardstock's made, while the glossy one is kind of a lot flatter and has a bit more gloss on the back as well. It is also glossier from the front, but it's kind of hard to pick that up, I think, even in person, to be honest, but especially on camera, because the wavy non-holos don't have any waves to them, like obviously the first edition holos do, and so it's kind of a slightly confusing term in a way. It was actually easier when people used to call them like first print and second print, because then it's easy to understand what you mean when you say like a first print Fusionist, because you mean the one that comes from the first print box. Whereas when you say like a wavy Fusionist, it's kind of hard to understand because the cardstock isn't actually wavy at all. If anything, I'd probably just call it dull. That's kind of the best term to describe it. So now let's put these back in. Oh, and if you're wondering, I don't actually use sleeves for when I'm using these kinds of binders. And the reason for that is that the pages you get with these, unlike the ones in the 20-page binders most people use, they're more or less the same material as soft sleeves. So when you're only putting one card per pocket, there's really no need for a sleeve, and it just kind of adds extra time and nuisance when you're switching things out and that kind of thing. It makes it much more convenient to be able to check out whether certain cards are gradable or not as well when I'm looking to grade some of these. I do actually have a whole set of the non-holos already being graded at Beckett at the moment. I sent them all off 60-day no subgrade, so I have no idea how long those will take. They'll probably be back next year or something like that. But yeah, that's another thing that I kind of worked on, was putting together a whole set of gradable non-holos, as well as the near mint first edition ones that you see in here. Most of these are probably 9 to 10 range. So yeah, so much classic artwork in LOB. I'm sure I'm not the only one who finds these cards super nostalgic to look at. Fisher is one of the cards which I really focus on a lot, because nowadays this is a pretty expensive rare. It's probably $20 near mint, I don't know, something in that region. When I bought most of my Fishers, they were still under $1, which, considering it's a pretty iconic card in terms of playability way back when LOB was released as well, I never really understood it. And I guess my prediction did stand the test of time there. If you're wondering why there's a Dragon Captured Jar on the back here, so this is just something I did for fun. When I used to buy these all the time, I mean, I would probably buy 20, 30 LOB rares per month at least. Pretty much just all of them that came up for a reasonable price in near mint condition. And obviously, when you buy that many cards, you're always going to end up with some fakes coming in. And these are the ones that I kept on the back of the pages. These are the famous red back LOB fakes. So if I just take out, let's say, a Fisher to compare it to on the back. Obviously, like, even authentic LOB cards have a pretty deep red back compared to later cards, but it's still a lot less red than the ones that you get on the fakes, which are almost kind of like a salmon pink tone. They have a really weird texture. It doesn't feel right at all. They're very flimsy. They kind of just bend far too easily for an authentic Yu-Gi-Oh card to do. And I mean, I'm not going to make this into a fake tutorial, because there are plenty out there on YouTube already, but the text is also slightly off, because all of the type fonts used on Yu-Gi-Oh cards are copyrighted, so they're not available to other people to use. And so unless you like photocopy the card to get the text exactly right, you'll always end up with some issues trying to create a text that looks similar yourself. I've actually been looking to pick up a box of the fakes for a long time, just to have for reference again. They're actually not easy to find, I've got to say. I don't know if I'd say they're worth anything, because at the end of the day they're counterfeits, but they're definitely a cool piece of the history of the game. Carbonella Warrior is one of those ones which was actually, it was one of the most expensive rares back when I was buying it. I think probably just due to meta playability and stuff like that, because I think with what's it called, Metamorphosis and stuff like that, you can do stuff with fusions. But nowadays it's still probably worth 20-30 bucks, but it's an example of where, because that value it had wasn't really down to the card itself being desirable, it's actually averaged down while the rest of the cards have gone up a lot more. And so relative to a lot of the other rares in this set, that was a lot less good buy. So that's also one of the rares that I have a lot fewer copies of. So I mean, with Fisher or something, I probably have about 15 near mint Fishers in that region. But with a card like Carbonella Warrior, I probably have 4 or 5, but that'll be about it. Reaper of the Cards. Okay, this is my favorite rare in LOB. I'm not sure what most people's favorite rare would be. Obviously, Pot of Greed is the most iconic. But Reaper of the Cards, for me, I always loved the artwork. I love the weird, wacky attack and defense stats. Just everything about this card is super nostalgic to me. It's kind of like the epitome of what LOB is about, in my opinion. So that's one of the cards in this binder where I didn't just put one row in, but I put an extra row in afterwards as well. And I think I even have, yeah, that's one of the fake ones on the back there. So yeah, in terms of enjoyment in the hobby. I think it's not something a lot of people talk about these days, just with the financial aspect being so big. But being able to get the kind of value in terms of the nostalgia value and just the amount you can enjoy the card in something like Reaper of the Cards always just seemed like such a good buy to me. Again, it's that kind of difference between buying something strictly as an investment where you think the value is going to go up, or buying it because, well, you think the value might go up, but you also just enjoy owning the card, having it there to look at. And that's really what this whole binder is about, because even though, yes, the value of these cards has gone up a lot since I bought them, at the end of the day, these cards are still not that expensive raw. They never will be. I could have made far more money just like focusing on higher end cards, but putting this binder together was a lot more about personal satisfaction and just being able to enjoy the cards than anything else. I love all the Magic cards from LOB. I think the deeper colors of the first edition run, both wavy and glossy, really suits Magic cards very nicely, both for like holos and non-holos. Stop Defense is obviously a classic. And the short prints as well are pretty awesome. There's a fake Stop Defense up there. I'm not sure if the whole non-holo set actually exists for the fakes, because I know for the holos, every single box has the exact same pulls. It's like Trihorn Dragon, Guy the Fierce Knight, Left Arm of the Forbidden One, Mad Eater Bug, Trap Hole, Dark Hole, and Curse of Dragon, something like that. The 7 holos you get. But I assume you may actually get, well, you'll get most of the non-holos in each box, but I'm not sure if all of the rares and commons actually exist. There may be a few which don't. I've never tried to collect the full set or anything like that. So yeah, we're getting towards the end of the rares here. Here's the last couple on this page, Hane, and then obviously the man himself, Pot of Greed. What does it do? You guys gotta tell me. Yeah, iconic card, obviously. These were about $6-7 when I first got into buying them around like 2016, 2017, which was, that was a lot for an LOB rare back then. Aside from the ones which would randomly be meta, like the Carbonella Warrior and stuff, this was by far the most expensive. And I'd say Darkfire Dragon was number 2, but that was quite a long way behind. It was probably like $3 back for, I think then for a Nimrin Darkfire Dragon. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the rares, and then next up we have the short prints, obviously. There are 15 short prints in LOB. There's actually a lot of, like, there's people say there are super short prints, and there's actually some other stuff which I find weird as well. So in my opinion, all short prints in LOB have the exact same pull rates, just based on like when I've been able to buy large bulk amounts of the unlimited original print non-holos before. I found a guy once who had a couple of thousand of them that he got from a mass box opening, and when you averaged it out over a quantity that large, you got the same amount of every single short print, except one, which we'll get to later. So yeah, again, some more fakes. I think I actually have 3 fakes of the Violet Crystals. It's just one of those things. I'm pretty sure these were from Troll and Toad. I bought a bunch of them one time, and they were all fake. I might even have had more than 3, I can't remember. Book of Secret Arts is probably my favorite non-holo in terms of the artwork. Again, just a classic design. All of the short prints, to be honest, have really great artwork in this set. They're very hard to grade as well. Like Power of Kaishin might be the hardest to grade, and it always has centering issues and other things as well. And what you get with glossy non-holos that you don't tend to get with the holos as much is actually like condition issues. So I've had a lot of times when I bought packed fresh copies of rares and short prints and whatnot from different sellers I found who've opened boxes, and it's very common for them to have excess cut on the edge, but also to have even like edge wear on the top edge, just literally chipping from the way the card is cut. And yeah, so normally like you expect the holos to be the harder to grade cards for something like an old school set. But honestly, for glossy print, I'd probably say the non-holos are harder to grade relative to what they are. Silverbone Arrow is, I would say, the hardest short print to find. I'm not sure why, but it's really tough to find these raw. I've seen them sell for a lot, like $60-70 raw near mint even these days. I can understand it because I really struggled to even get 3 of these together back in the day. Again, it won't be to do with them having a different print run, I don't think. It's more just things happen with cards over the years, and you always get these odd like differences between cards which in theory have the exact same rarity. It's the same with the starter decks, when you look at SDK Blue Eyes and SDY Dark Magician. In theory, they're exactly the same cards, exactly the same difficulty to grade, everything. They come from the same sheets. You get like 5 decks in each box. But the PSA pop, like PSA 10 for Dark Magician, has always been like half the size of Blue Eyes White Dragon. You always get these anomalies in TCGs, which it's hard to know how to explain. Dragon Treasure is another favorite of mine. Just the artwork is great in my opinion. And Electro Whip is the card I wanted to talk about with short prints. So in theory, Electro Whip, it's an equipped magic card. It's meant to be a short print in LOB. But every time that I've had like a mass order come in of LOB non-holos, whether it's first edition or unlimited, I've had the exact same number of Electro Whips as I've had of regular commons. And I've never had any kind of ratio which suggests that it's actually a short print. So I'm not sure how to explain that. I assume it may have just been for convenience when they were making the sheets. It was easier to do 14 short prints rather than 15 for the short print sheet. And then they just lumped the Electro Whip in with the regular commons, and so that one got a much larger print run. So yeah, I've never seen anyone talk about that before, but I'm pretty certain that Electro Whip is not actually a short print, even though it comes into the category of short prints for LOB, which is every equipped magic card that they made for the set. These are the two cards here which are meant to be super short prints, Raise Body Heat and Follow Wind. And again, it's hard to say with certainty because I've never had a sample size that's big enough to say like anything definitively, but I don't notice anything rarer about these two cards than the rest of the short prints I've shown you. And as I said, I would actually say that the hardest card to find of all would be the Silver Bow and Arrow, not these two. So I think that's the end of the short prints. We just got the commons left to go, which I'll probably flick through a bit faster because there's not really as much to comment on. Skull Servant is obviously iconic. Probably my favorite regular like vanilla common from LOB. I think even these cards nowadays, I mean back in the day these were considered worthless, like regular LOB commons, get out of here. They'd be, probably you could pick up 100 of them for $10 honestly if you found someone who was selling a whole stack. The only one that was ever worth money was this one, Trial of Hell, which I'm sure you'll already know the story, but it was censored to Trial of Nightmare pretty early on in the Unlimited run. The only Unlimited print which has Trial of Hell still is the Glossy Unlimited print, which is the first Unlimited printing of LOB. A lot of classic artworks, obviously Flame Manipulator is part of the Flame Swordsman fusion. Turtle Tiger is... This card I have problems with. So as well as this binder, I also have a binder which is a complete wavy and glossy first edition LOB set. So both sets in the same binder. And that's both the holos and all of the commons and rares. And I don't know what it is with Turtle Tiger, but I have bought about 30 to 40 Turtle Tigers at this point. North American English online. Obviously most sellers don't say whether they're wavy or glossy. But every single first edition Turtle Tiger I've ever bought has been glossy print. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, it's like, I'd probably say on the whole, wavy versus glossy, you're looking at about glossy being 75% of the print run, wavy being 25%. Maybe a little bit less than that, but it's hard to say. Could be more or less, to be honest. Very hard to judge so long after the set was released just by the scarcity of cards. But yeah, for Turtle Tiger, I've literally had like, 30 plus glossy first edition Turtle Tigers. Still never found a wavy one. So if anyone has a wavy Turtle Tiger, hit me up. That's like one of the last spots in my binder that I need to fill. In terms of how long this binder took to put together, by the way, if anyone's curious, I'd say a lot of the cards I already had 3 of, even way back in 2017, but it was always, the way it would work is it would just be a few cards which I took a lot longer to find. So Dragoness the Wicked Knight I think was the final card that I found for this in terms of finding 3 copies. I probably got that about a couple of years ago. This binder's just been sitting complete in my collection since then. I don't think I'll add any more sets to it because this is plenty, and they are a lot more expensive now. Like even the commons, if you're looking for nice near mint to mint copies, could easily be $5 plus at this stage. So it requires a lot more capital than what it did when I started out, and because of that, I probably won't go for many more at this stage. But I would still recommend these absolutely. If you're getting into the hobby now, you're looking for something that you can get some good enjoyment out of, as well as good value. I don't think there's much that can beat first edition non-hollow LOB. Umi is obviously a classic as well. Mako Tsunami in the anime, Legendary Fisherman, there's not much more that I need to say there. And I've got a fake one of those as well. Yeah, I'm curious to see actually whether the fakes all exist for the non-hollows. I assume maybe the commons they do, but then the short prints and rares, there's probably a couple which don't. Yeah, more classic artwork. I don't think I could quite name every single card in order in LOB, but honestly at this stage I could probably name about half of them just with how many of these cards I've handled over the years. And I still do handle a lot of them. I mean, generally nowadays I sell more than I used to, because before I just saw no reason to sell with how low the prices were, and I would just hold on to all of them. Nowadays I just keep kind of the complete sets I'm able to make, and then the rest of them I'm happy to pass on to other collectors who need them. Frenzy Panda, I think, is another one where I might be missing the wavy common still. It's just one of those things. I'm sure one day I'll manage to get them all, but before then, I'm not really buying more at this point with the prices just to get wavy commons. But it would be nice to complete the other binder one day. And I'll definitely show that other LOB binder with the first edition hollows included as well at some point, because that, again, is one of my favorite binders to look through. But honestly, I think this one takes the cake for that, just because it's got that ring binder format, which is very nostalgic, but also it's kind of nice to look at cards once in a while which don't have crazy prices attached to them, because even raw first edition LOB hollows, I mean, something like a Wavy Blue Eyes, I think I paid less than $200 for mine, but nowadays they're easily $3,000-$4,000 even in plate condition, which is really crazy to think about, and it makes it hard to kind of detach the financial aspect of collecting from just, I guess, the actual enjoyable aspect, the pleasure you're able to get from looking at the cards. That's where something like this is so good, because yeah, okay, these cards are worth something nowadays, which they didn't used to be, but this is still really like not big money. It's a few dollars per card. Even the most expensive card in this whole binder, which is probably the Pot of Greeds, I'd say you could still find a good raw Pot of Greed for less than $100. So it's very affordable relative to how much money you get in the hobby generally nowadays. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the binder. That's Succubus Knight is the final common. It's not the final non-hollow if we're going by the set number. That would be Pot of Greed, which is 119. But the way I organized it, that's the last card in this binder. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed looking through this binder with me. As I said, you gotta focus on the enjoyment of the hobby sometimes. Like, the financial aspect is great and all, but to me, it's not enough to keep me going by itself. That's what I would honestly say. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, and with that, this is Schlost signing out, and I'll see you all in the next video.